Hey, good day to you. This is Todd. I am a regular dude walking in the Word. We're in Genesis 19 right now. We're looking at the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah and Lot's dealings with that. Okay, he shouldn't have been in there. We all know that. But let's see what happens. And we're going to do one more episode on this too tomorrow, where I'm going to talk about the steps in Lot leaving Sodom. Okay, so I'd like to read today chapter 19, verses 1 through 29, and I'll kind of stop as I go along the way there. And it's called Sucked into Sodom, and you're going to see how Lot was sucked into Sodom. All right, it says, the two angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. When he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. My lords, he said, please turn aside to your servant's house. You can wash your feet and spend the night and then go on your way early in the morning. No, they answered, we will spend the night in the square. Okay, let's stop there. We already talked about yesterday how Lot was now a judge in the city, and he was also had a house in the city. All right, he knows good and well what the people are like in the city. Okay, it's not a surprise when they come knocking on the door that very night. All right, so he knows what the people are like. He's been living in that city, okay? So he said he invites and this was part of the hospitality too, in that culture, was if someone came to the city, you took them in, right? And so that's what he does. And they're like, no, we'll just spend the night in the square. He's like, oh, no, you don't want to do that. All right, so let's see, continue on here. Verse 3, but he insisted so strongly that they did go with him and entered his house. He prepared a meal for them, baking bread without yeast, and they ate. Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house. And get this, the scriptures say all the men, young and old, surrounded the house, okay? It wasn't just like two guys. It was all the men. All right, verse 5, they called Lot, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we can have sex with them. Lot went outside to meet them and shut the door behind him and said, no, my friends, don't do a wicked thing. Look, I have two daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do with them whatever you like with them. But don't do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof. Okay? So, let me address several things here. The sin here of homosexuality is described here, and it's sodomy. Okay, this is the only sin that you'll read in the Bible where that sin is named after the city, where I don't know if it originated there, but it was a popular place for this to happen. There's no other sin. There's no city called adultery or stealing or anything like that. But this sin is named after Sodom, where this was prominent. Okay. The other thing here too, when you read this, and Lot gave up his daughters, if you did that today, you'd be looked at as a wacko. Okay. If I had a guest come and the same thing was happening, and I said, oh, here, take my daughters, people today in today's day and age would go, what are you doing? That's a big no-no. And of course it is. Keep in mind, in that day, women were treated just a little bit higher than slaves and didn't have that great of a relationship. And hospitality was held really, really high. Okay? So you did everything you could to protect the guests that you had here. So keep that in mind when you read this. But again, to give up your daughters, not a great thing. If my daughters did that, if I did that to my daughters wouldn't think too highly of me. They wouldn't want to be around me, okay? And they probably wouldn't respect me a whole lot either, Can I protect them? No, I'm giving them over to these to be raped. That's crazy. Okay, so let's keep moving on here. Verse 9, get out of the way, they replied. This fellow came here as a foreigner, and now he wants to play the judge. We'll treat you worse than them. They kept bringing pressure on Lot and moving forward to break down the door. Lot was trying to to kind of negotiate. He still wanted to live here and be friends with him and everything, and he was trying to talk real nice. Wasn't being forceful about it. And these guys were like, we want the men. We want to have sex with them. Verse 10, but the men inside reached out and pulled Lot back into the house and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the door of the house, young and old, with blindness, so that they could not find the door. That would be amazing to see. These guys are trying to get in, and all of a sudden they're blind. All of them are blind, so they can't even find the door, okay? They've got bigger issues than trying to have sex. They got, like, I can't see, that issue. Verse 12, the two men said to Lot, do you have anyone else here, sons-in-law, sons or daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here, because we are going to destroy this place. The outcry to the Lord against its people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it. So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who were pledged to marry his daughters. He said, hurry and get out of this place, because the Lord is about to destroy the city. But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. Now, obviously, Lot hadn't talked to them about the wickedness of Sodom before, because it was like, oh, why are you concerned now? We're going to keep on staying here. And Lot had integrated himself into this. I don't know if he was involved with the sin, but he had integrated himself into the city that much that the sons were like, we're going to keep on living here, the sons-in-law. All right? Verse 15, with the coming of dawn, the angel urged Lot, hurry, take your wife and your two daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished. When he hesitated, get this, he hesitates. The city's going to be destroyed, and he hesitates. We're going to talk more about that tomorrow. The men grasped his hand and the hands of his wife and his two daughters, and they led him safely out of the city, for the Lord was merciful to him. As soon as they had brought them out, one of them said, flee for your lives. Don't look back and don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains or you will be swept away. Pretty clear instructions. Run for your life and don't look back. All right? Yeah, the city's going to be destroyed. Verse 18, but Lot said to them, this drives you bonkers because he's still like trying to negotiate here. You know, the guys are giving him, the angels are giving him free pass. Get out of here before we destroy it. And he's still trying to like, can I stay? Verse 18, but Lot said to them, no, my lords, please, your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have shown me great kindness to me in sparing my life. But I can't flee to the mountains. This disaster will overtake me and I'll die. Look, here is a town near enough to run to, and it is small. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? Then my life will be spared. This guy, Lot's not just fleeing and obeying like he was told to. He's trying to negotiate, like, can I go a little closer? I don't want to run that far away. All right, verse 21, he said to them, very well, I will grant this request too. I will not overthrow the town you speak of, but flee there quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it. That is why the town is called Zoar. By the time Lot reached Zoar, the sun had risen over the land. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, destroying all those living in the land. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Okay, and yet this wasn't like a little like, oh, I dropped something and look back. No, the translation shows that she looked back kind of as a longing, like looked back like, oh man, I wish I could stay there, you know, at that type of thing. Okay, and in that area too, what you can read it from earlier chapters, there was tar pits in that area. And if there's those tar pits there and it's fire, burning sulfur is raining down from heaven, that's burning, what's going to happen to those tar pits? Kaboomy, they're going to be ignited, okay? So you'd have a pretty good inferno going really quick here. All right, verse 27. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and returned to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, toward all the land of the plain, and he saw dense smoke rising from the land. like smoke from a furnace. So when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham, and he brought Lot out of the catastrophe that overthrew the cities where Lot had lived. Lot had a hard time fleeing. Okay, so you can see that in the whole thing here. Abraham, he looks out, and he really doesn't, it doesn't say he has any emotion of it, and he wasn't like crying out to God, like, why did you do this? Or anything like that. Abraham had nothing invested in those cities. Okay, he had spent his time outside the cities. He never went into the cities, and in fact, when he rescued Lot, his intention was to rescue Lot, not the cities necessarily, but he was living in the cities. And the rulers of Sodom wanted to kind of make a pact with him and say, hey, why don't you take some of the booty here? And Abraham's like, no way, I ain't touching your stuff. Okay, so there was a definite separation between Abraham and Sodom. And so when this happens, it doesn't bother Abraham because he has nothing invested there. Okay, if I am involved in sin and something happens to that sin, I'm really upset because I have invested in that sin. Okay, but if I'm, something happens, let's say down the road there's a strip club, and it burns down one day. Am I all sad about that? Like, crying about it? No, because I have nothing invested there. I don't go there. I don't participate in that stuff. Okay, so I wanted to show you the scripture here and take you through the timeline to show how Lot was sucked into this whole thing, into Sodom, and it had a grip on him. Okay, but Abraham, he stood outside the city, and he had nothing invested in it, so it didn't bother him. Okay. So thanks for watching. I'm a regular dude walking in the Word, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow as we continue our journey through Genesis. Lord's blessing. I'll see you then.